We'll explore in full detail how Gran Turismo entered the global gaming scene and changed everything. Let's begin. When people think about racing games today, they imagine realism, accurate physics, licensed cars, detailed handling models, and a sense of actually being behind the wheel. But in the mid-1990s, racing games were something entirely different. They were fast, flashy, and fun, but they rarely aimed to replicate real driving. Titles focused on arcade-style gameplay, exaggerated physics, and instant excitement rather than authenticity. Then, in 1997, everything changed with the release of Gran Turismo on the original PlayStation. This was not just another racing game. It was a turning point, a moment where racing games evolved from simple entertainment into something deeper, a simulation of driving itself. The racing game landscape before Gran Turismo. To understand how revolutionary Gran Turismo was, we need to look at the competition at the time. Popular racing games like Ridge Racer and Need for Speed 2 dominated the market. These games were exciting, visually impressive for their time, and incredibly fun to play. But they had one thing in common. They were arcade experiences. Cars felt light and easy to control. Drifting around corners was effortless. The focus was on speed and spectacle rather than precision. You didn't need to think about braking points, tire grip, or weight distribution. You just drove fast and tried to win. This approach worked well and players loved it. But it also meant that there was a gap in the market. No game truly captured what it felt like to drive a real car. Gran Turismo stepped into that gap and completely redefined expectations. A vision of real driving. Gran Turismo was created by Kazunori Yamauchi and his team at Polyphony Digital. Their vision was simple yet ambitious: to create the most realistic driving experience possible on a home console. This meant going far beyond what other games were doing. Instead of focusing purely on speed and excitement, Gran Turismo introduced realistic physics. Cars had weight. They reacted differently depending on speed, braking, and cornering. You couldn't just slam into a turn at full speed and expect to come out cleanly. You had to think, adjust, and learn. For many players, this was the first time a racing game demanded skill in a completely new way. Driving in Gran Turismo felt different, felt grounded. Learning to drive through a video game. One of the most innovative features of Gran Turismo was its license system. Before entering certain races, players had to complete driving tests. These weren't just simple challenges. They were structured lessons designed to teach proper driving techniques. Players learned how to brake before corners, accelerate smoothly, and maintain control under pressure. These tests required patience and precision. They could be frustrating, but they were also incredibly rewarding. For the first time, a racing game wasn't just about winning races, it was about improving as a driver. This system transformed the experience. Players didn't just play Gran Turismo, they studied it, they practiced, they got better. It blurred the line between a game and a driving simulator. The cars, a dream garage. Another major innovation was the sheer number and variety of cars available. Gran Turismo featured over 140 licensed vehicles, a massive number for its time. But it wasn't just about quantity. The cars were real, recognizable, detailed. Players could drive vehicles from brands like Nissan, Toyota, Mazda, and Honda. Iconic models such as the Nissan Skyline GTR, Toyota Supra, and Mazda RX-7 became fan favorites. Each car felt unique. Some were fast but hard to control. Others were stable but slower. Choosing the right car and learning how to handle it became a key part of the experience. Gran Turismo didn't just give players cars. It gave them a connection to those cars. Gameplay that demanded respect. Gran Turismo's gameplay was not forgiving. Mistakes mattered. Entering a corner too fast could ruin your entire race. Poor braking could send you off track. Losing control could cost you the lead. But this challenge was also what made the game so satisfying. Winning a race wasn't just about being faster, it was about being better. Players had to learn tracks, understand their cars, and refine their driving skills. It was a more thoughtful, deliberate experience compared to other racing games. And that difference set Gran Turismo apart. The impact on players. Gran Turismo didn't just change racing games, it changed players. For many, it was their first exposure to realistic driving concepts. It introduced them to car culture. It sparked an interest in real-world vehicles. Players began to recognize car models, understand performance differences, and appreciate the mechanics behind driving. Some even credit Gran Turismo with inspiring their interest in motorsports or automotive engineering. It wasn't just entertainment. It was education wrapped in a game. A massive success. The impact of Gran Turismo was immediate and undeniable. The game sold over 10 million copies worldwide, making it one of the best-selling PlayStation titles of all time. Critics praised its realism, depth, and innovation. But more importantly, it influenced the entire industry. After Gran Turismo, expectations changed. Racing games could no longer rely solely on arcade mechanics. Players wanted realism. They wanted depth. They wanted simulation. Gran Turismo had raised the standard, changing the competition. Following its success, other developers began to shift their approach. Racing games started incorporating more realistic physics, licensed cars, and deeper gameplay systems. Gran Turismo didn't eliminate arcade racing games, but it created a new category: simulation racing. It proved that there was a massive audience for this type of experience. And that changed everything. Graphics and presentation. For a PlayStation 1 game, Gran Turismo was visually impressive. Cars were detailed and recognizable. Tracks felt grounded and believable. The menus had a clean, professional design that reinforced the game's realistic tone. Even the sound design contributed to the experience. Engine sounds, while limited by hardware, aimed to replicate real vehicles. The overall presentation supported the game's core idea. This was not just a game. It was a driving experience. What made it truly unique? What truly set Gran Turismo apart was how all its elements worked together. It wasn't just the physics. It wasn't just the cars. It wasn't just the progression. It was the combination of all these features. Gran Turismo created a cohesive experience that felt authentic from start to finish. It respected the player, challenged them, and it rewarded them. Can it still be played today? By modern standards, Gran Turismo may feel dated. The graphics are simple, and the controls can feel less responsive compared to modern titles. But the core experience still holds up. The sense of progression, the learning curve, and the satisfaction of mastering a car and a track are still there. For players who appreciate retro games or want to understand the history of racing simulations, Gran Turismo remains an essential experience. Additional perspective, the cultural and long-term influence. Beyond its immediate success, Gran Turismo had a deeper cultural impact that continued to grow long after its release. It wasn't just a game that people played for a few weeks and moved on from. It became a long-term experience that players returned to again and again. Over time, this influence extended beyond the game. Later entries in the series would even collaborate with real automotive manufacturers, blurring the line between simulation and reality even further. But it all started here with the original Gran Turismo. Even today, when players look back at the history of racing games, Gran Turismo is often seen as the foundation of modern simulation racing. It proved that players were ready for a more serious, more authentic experience. And in doing so, it didn't just follow the evolution of gaming, it helped define it. Conclusion: Gran Turismo was more than just a successful game. It was a revolution. It transformed racing games from simple arcade experiences into something deeper and more meaningful. It introduced realism, depth, and authenticity to a genre that had never seen it before. It taught players how to drive, not just in a game, but in a way that mirrored real life. And most importantly, it changed the expectations of what a racing game could be. Today, every realistic racing game owes something to Gran Turismo. Because before realism, before simulation, before modern racing games as we know them, there was Gran Turismo. If you enjoyed this and want more deep dives like this, be sure to subscribe to Retro Game Stories.